Hamilton Tiger Cats fans,
you're not done here, Ticats.
We have the Ticats info you need on their road to Regina, here on the Ticats Audio Network. This is Speaking with the Enemy on the Ticats Audio Network. Here is Louis Butko.
Yes, the show is Speaking with the Enemy this week, and it's a familiar one at that. That being the Ottawa Redblacks as the Ticats wrap up their regular season. To discuss that, we bring in Jeff Avery, who's a Redblacks insider on TSN 1200. And Jeff, I'm sure you're like me and was maybe hoping this game meant a little bit more, but how are the Redblacks approaching this one?
Well, I honestly think they're approaching it as they have approached all the games. Obviously a different scenario, if you will, from the Hamilton perspective, because Hamilton has something to play for beyond this weekend, whereas Ottawa doesn't. But Ottawa is looking at it as an opportunity to get a win. And in all honesty, a win at home would be something that is sorely needed from both a fan perspective, a business perspective, and I think a team morale perspective as well. So they are, I think, approaching it as that. They're going to put their best foot forward on the field, but they are making a key change in one of the key positions. And of course, that's a quarterback, where they want to get a look at Caleb Evans and possibly Tyree Adams, just to have a look at them, considering they got decisions to make next year, who will be backing up Jeremiah Masoli.
Yeah, Nick Arbuckle demoted to third on the depth chart. We've seen what Evans can do. He punches that football in consistently, setting the record for rushing touchdowns. I'm sure he appreciates the record. I'm sure he'd like a few more wins. But for you, what have you seen from him, and is he ready to take the next step?
Well, I think that's the big question. And in all honesty, if the next step is assuming a starting role, no, I don't think he's quite ready for that. I still see him trying to put the ball at times where it shouldn't be placed, trying to put it into too small of windows. He does have the ability to create some great, yardage, first down opportunities with his feet. So it's an opportunity, I think, that I think he'll enjoy, because it gives him the chance to actually run an offense, not just short yardage, as you were talking about with all the touchdowns he's had. So, yeah, I just don't think he's quite ready to assume that starting role, but you want him to have progressed enough to maybe that he can secure that backup role, because I do think he has a bright future. I think he just needs time on the field running this Redblacks offense.
Now, he did start 5 games after Masoli went down. What do you think he took from those games? He did pick up a win in one of them, but what do you think he picked up? What do you think he was maybe told? And I guess it doesn't really apply if he's got a new head coach, but how has he changed, do you think, in that 5-game span since that little run he went on?
Yeah, it was a difficult time, because even with Jeremiah at quarterback, the offensive line was a group that was just put together. Now, they were a veteran group, but they were really a brand new set up front. And so they were still working on their cohesiveness, their communication. So the offensive line play in the first half of the season was not near as good as it was in the second half of the season. And so I think Caleb was, I don't even want to use the word forced, but situations were created where he took to the running capabilities that he has, rather than being able to stay in the pocket a little bit longer, which Nick Arbuckle had the benefit of doing when he stepped in and replaced Caleb. So, I'm sure in talking to him, they're talking about, the actual management of the game. They're talking to him about, you go through your reads. And that was a big improvement when we had Nick Arbuckle step in. Nick does a great job of going through his reads, whereas Caleb had a tendency of looking to the first guy, not always getting to the second. And if he did get to the second, definitely not the third. And so it's a matter of having the confidence in the protection you have in front of you, being able to go through your reads, because that's quite often where the completions occur, not the first read, second or third, when you find the open man.
Looking at this Redblacks team, there were some bright spots, and one of them was a couple of former Ticats, I should say. Jalen Ackland, can you just give us a status on him? I haven't seen the depth chart, I'm not going to lie. Jalen Ackland, is he going to play this week?
No, he's not.
What a season he had. I know a lot of Ticats fans were impressed with what he did last season. But Jalen Ackland, is he a receiver that whoever is at the helm there think they can maybe build an offense around?
I think he's outstanding. I think Jalen does so many good things. He runs good routes. He catches the ball extremely well. I love his aggressiveness to the ball. He goes after the ball, irrelevant of the situation. He's just I think a complete receiver, and his numbers show that. Yeah. And he had some less than stellar games and still had tremendous numbers where they just weren't able to get the ball to him. So I think he's just a huge part of this offense going forward. And unfortunately, both last week and this week, he did start practicing earlier in the week, but as the week went on, you get the helmets on, he just started to have some recurring issues from the hits he took down in Montreal to the head. So just better to be safe than sorry. You want a healthy, really competitive, we do have Jalen Acklin next year.
Well, the thing about those Ottawa teams that found success in recent years, a lot of that success was around superb receiving, was it not?
Well, a combination of receiving and quarterback play. Yeah. I mean, obviously Trevor Harris, when he was here with, Brad Sinopoli, with Ellingson, they were just a great group and worked so well together. And I think I think Jeremiah Masoli can be every bit the quarterback, if not even better, because I think he's just got a little bit more veteran savvy than Trevor Harris has. And I think you can put a pretty good receiving core around him and you'll have tremendous success. And Jalen Acklin is going to be a huge part of that. And they've got, they have several really good receivers to choose from as they build this team for next year. So Sean Burke has his work cut out for him, as the GMs do every year in the CFL with the number 1 year contracts that are out there, to build this group up again for another run, a better run, obviously, hopefully in 2023.
We're hoping to see Lorenzo Malden in action on Saturdays. Listed as a game time decision, as I do pull up my depth chart here. Was quite questionable on the injury report. Game time decision. I had AJ on last week. He made the argument that he thinks this was the best defensive season he's seen from an Ottawa Redblack in its recent history. Is something you agree with?
Absolutely. I think the best season I've seen from an Ottawa Redblacks, and I go back to the Renegades days. He was, as a defensive end, he has been just outstanding. And most people, when they think of a defensive end, they think about pressures, they think about sacks. Well, Lorenzo's got that, but he plays the run very well. He does so many things so well. He's a complete package of that, and he's a game changer. He can dominate. And, you get a guy like Cleon Lang inside that just does a great job of being, controlling a couple of guys inside. It just helps getting Lorenzo up one-on-one outside. So, I mean, he's just really a guy that I'm looking forward, hopefully, to seeing again for this last game. But, again, he as well is battling some injuries.
Yeah, and I mean, really, everybody who I've talked to around the Ticats, it comes as no surprise his success, and really happy with what he's been able to do with the Redblacks. Okay, so if the Redblacks they're playing to win, it's a football game, but I'm sure some guys are hoping to make an impression for either Coach Bob Dice or GM Sean Burke. Who should people be watching in this one? What are some names that have been flying under the radar that could go out there and make a name for themselves in week 21 here?
Well, from the receiving corps perspective, the young kid that got a chance to play in the first Hamilton game the Montreal game was Ciosi Mariner. And so he's an interesting kid that's really done really well all season just at practice. So he got the opportunity to play because of Jalen's injury, and he made an immediate impact. He caught deep balls. He worked well underneath. So he's a kid that's worked with Nick Arbuckle during the offseason. So they had a lot of time spent together throwing and catching. But this week he's got Caleb Evans and maybe Tyree Evans. But he's, from the receiving corps perspective, he's an interesting young guy to watch. And I think he's somebody that will be a part of the plan going forward next year. And, pretty much it's the same group that you're looking at as you saw down in Hamilton. And obviously on the D line, if you look to Lorenzo, that's all you need to look at. If he's playing, he's the guy you want to look at. But at the other end, Kenny Onyeka is an interesting story. He's a young kid, 3 years in the league. This is his third year. He's out of Carleton University, a local product out of Carleton University. And he has developed over these 3 years to where now he has his own individual pass rush moves. He's really become a much better and more complete player. He learns so much. As we've talked to him individually, learned so much from the guys around him, like Malden, and the other people that have been here the first 2 years with him. So he's a guy that's moved into a starting role now at that defensive end position. And he's a guy that can make his presence felt. So he's an interesting character to watch at the other end from Malden.
What do you think Sean Burke's, other than finding a head coach, I feel like, or naming a head coach, that's top priority. After that, what do you think Sean Burke's to-do list is going to look like this offseason?
It's a big one. No, seriously.
I figured, yeah.
Louis, you know what the CFL is now. That certainly when he brought certain free agents in, he was able to sign them to multi-year contracts, like Jeremiah Masoli, like Jalen Ackland, a couple of the offensive linemen. But this is a league that has turned into a one-year contract league, and so the general manager's work is just massive every offseason, trying to again put the roster together, what you have last year, performances, what are you going to get this year, free agency. It's a massive undertaking, I think, by any general manager. And obviously they always are trying to get multi-year contracts, but that's Sean Burke's biggest headache is the entire roster. I mean, he's got a few key components in place, and most importantly is at quarterback. But boy, the rest of that roster still has to be redeveloped. And you look in the secondary here in Ottawa, there's a couple of guys that are getting up in age. They're stalwarts here in town. Abdul Kenna, Sherrod Baltimore, crowd favorites, but they're getting up in years. And so there's always that looking for the youth to come in and push the veteran. And that's, when you look at the secondary, it's not one that did very well in the turnover category this year. And that's something that you need. You need turnovers in this league to make things happen. And so, yeah, that secondary was another interesting area for us to watch how Sean Burke rebuilds it.
Not to put you on the spot here, but Coach Bob Dice in the interim role, it seems like the team's been rallying behind him, despite coming up short last week. But what have you seen out of him? And do you think that if Sean Burke's search is going to start there?
Oh, I definitely think the search starts there. I think there has been a really definite change in what we've seen on the play on the field. Now, part of that is slightly different play selection offensively, but just from the player's perspective, I just see a different group with a better attitude on the sidelines and on the field. So I think Bob has made a huge difference. As a head coach, he's a guy that's done it a little bit before, but he's a guy, special teams coaches, they deal with most of the people on the roster. So a lot of the guys know and have worked with Bob Dice, and they respect Bob Dice. And Bob talks to people looking for their opinion. And when he gets their opinion out of players, he talks to them about how it can be implemented and if it should be, it gives you an ownership, if you will, to the position you're playing. And that builds a trust between players and coach. And Bob has that. And so that's why I think things have turned around, not necessarily in the win category. I mean, he's got the one win for sure. But boy, the level of play is the games have been competitive since Bob has taken over. This is certainly a changed team.
Now, Jeff, I know the show is called Speaking with the Enemy, but I will admit you can be an honorary friend of the show. Anyone who wins a Vanier Cup with a Ticats legend like Rocky DiPietro or a Hamilton MVP like Neil Lumsden, you know what? You're okay in my books. The show may be called Speaking with the Enemy, but you're okay in my books. Do you think your GGs pull it out against Windsor this week?
I do think they win this week. I definitely do.
There you go. All right. Jeff, I appreciate you're a busy man, so I appreciate you taking the time this afternoon. Thank you. Enjoy the call. And hopefully, I'm sure we'll be talking next year about a revamped Redblacks team. So thank you.
Looking forward to it. Great to be on, Louis.
My thanks to Jeff Avery, TSN 1200 Ottawa Redblacks analyst, for joining me today on Speaking with the Enemy. Speaking with the Enemy brought to you by Red Tag. There's nothing like a holiday escape with redtag.ca, and this year spaces are limited, so make sure to book in advance to secure your spot on the beach now and be merry later. See the world your way with redtag.ca. That's it for us. You can get your brand new Speaking with the Enemy as part of Ticats pregame with Andy Fantuz and Bubba O'Neill. And coverage of that starts 4 o'clock right here on the Ticats Audio Network. I'm Louis Butko. Hope you have a great day.
The Ticats begin the playoffs.
Hopefully you'll see us again coming down King or Main Street when it really counts.
And you'll hear it all here on the Ticats Audio Network.